The bed was actually probably more comfortable than my bed at home.
I saw young men who looked exactly like me.
That's right.
I saw myself in those cages. Someone yell, "I'm an American citizen."
To be clear, and we've been following up on this since Ashley and John left, we were hearing from sources that there are rumors going around, discussion that there are American citizens being held in there. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup.
This is Ashley with Status Coup.
On the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio. Please support the leading independent news outlet on the ground.
Covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. I'm an American citizen. That is what one of the prisoners at Trump's Alligator Alcatraz ICE Gestapo prison chanted as Democratic lawmakers were allowed in yesterday for a very carefully curated quasi visit in which they were not given access to the actual prisoners. I'm going to show you some of these clips from the visit. There's alarming details, including reports that some of the prisoners are chanting, "We're American citizens." Prisoners drinking water connected to the toilet bowl, 85 degrees inside, among other really, really alarming things. To be clear, this facility, this prison, is not for the worst of the worst or psychopaths. And hundreds of the prisoners there have no criminal charges. To be clear, hundreds of prisoners there. The majority have no criminal charges, and many who do have criminal charges have traffic violations. Let me show you this from CBS down in Miami.
We saw people, of course, yelling for help. We even heard in the background someone yell, "I'm an American citizen."
After a several-hour tour of Alligator Alcatraz, Florida Democrats said that the food portions were smaller for detainees than the staff. And while they didn't get to meet with any detainees while inside, they said the conditions were appalling. The Democratic lawmakers tell us they weren't allowed to take photos inside the facility and couldn't bring their phones in.
I brought a thermostat in with me, a manual thermostat. In the medical intake area, it was 85 degrees.
Water has to be trucked into this facility. No running pipes. It makes no sense that this is here.
Their drinking water comes from the toilet. People are on the toilet, you can't drink water.
Republican lawmakers also got a tour and said they were satisfied with what they saw.
I will tell you, I was in one of the areas where I actually laid down in a bed. The bed was actually probably more comfortable than my bed at home.
Oh, yeah, the beds, they're just like those wonderful Sleep Number beds where you got the temperature control, you could raise the back. What a goal that Republican is, putting aside one of the Democrats who spoke and my thoughts about her history of corruption. No working pipes, to be clear. This was obvious. Our reporter, Ashley Bishop, on the ground there. We were just on the ground. We'd like to go back ASAP because we believe things are going to get worse, unfortunately. So please, if you can, sign up now, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day to support our continued on-the-ground reporting on this horrible, horrible human rights abuse. But it was very clear. How do you create a plumbing system, a septic system at a makeshift prison outdoor in tents in the swamps of the Everglades in 8 days? It's not possible. That's why folks we talked to said you can't have an actual septic tank in the Everglades, in the swamp. It makes no sense. But as we know, the heat index, what they call the feels like, or feel heat, is over 100 degrees there on many days. Wasserman Schultz there talked about bringing a thermostat in there. It was 85 degrees inside, and prisoners have complained of not getting enough water, getting really, really small meal portions, the swarming mosquitoes biting them, mosquitoes which carry disease in some cases, not having showers for days. I mean, it's just beyond insane. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right, that we're pretending this is somehow, hey, this is an efficient little center to bring in the bad hombres, as Trump would say. Let me show you more of this.
When I was in that facility looking at those cages, I saw young men who looked exactly like me.
That's right.
I saw myself in those cages. And so there will be hearings and there will be accountability.
To be clear, and we've been following up on this since Ashley and John left, we were hearing from sources that there are rumors going around, discussion that there are American citizens being held in there. It's not something I could have confirmed. There is very limited access, obviously, inside. Even the Democratic politicians, they were not actually allowed to meet with prisoners, even see cells where prisoners are being held. They were shown empty cells, as that Republican said, oh, that was a comfortable mattress. So they're only getting like a carefully curated, controlled tour and window. They're not actually talking to the prisoners. They're not seeing their actual conditions. They're getting what ICE wants to show. And I would ask MAGA, if it's fine, if they're up to code, if it's humane, why won't you let them see where the prisoners are being held? Why won't you let them talk to prisoners? What do you have to hide? And are there American citizens being held there? Because that doesn't sound like going after criminals. Now moving on to who's actually in the prison, there is, according to the Miami Herald, about 700 prisoners already. This has the capacity to go up to 3,000. They're saying it could even go beyond 3,000. Hundreds of the 700 have no criminal charges. And of those in the facility with criminal convictions, many of them are for traffic violations. Let me show you this from Miami Herald. The Miami Herald obtained records that give insight into who is being held at Alligator Alcatraz, a list of roughly 750 names, 250 with immigration violations, 260 with pending criminal charges, 240 with criminal convictions. That is over 500, over half, either immigration violations, pending criminal charges, which we have no idea what they are, and of the criminal convictions, to be clear, many of them are traffic violations. Let me read from the Miami Herald story. Hundreds of immigrants with no criminal charges in the U.S. are being held at Alligator Alcatraz, a detention facility state and federal officials have characterized as a place where, quote, vicious and, quote, deranged psychopaths are sent before they get deported. Records obtained by Miami Herald and Tampa Bay Times show. Mixed among the detainees accused and convicted of crimes are more than 250 people who are listed as having only immigration violations, which, by the way, is a misdemeanor, but no criminal convictions or pending charges in the U.S. The data is based on a list of more than 700 people who are either being held under tents and in a chain-link cell, in chain-link cells at Florida's pop-up detention center in the Everglades. A third of detainees have criminal convictions. Their charges range from attempted murder to illegal reentry traffic violations. Hundreds of others only have pending charges. The records do not disclose the nature of the offenses, and reporters have not independently examined each individual case. To be clear, some of these are traffic violations. Miami Herald confirms that 1/3 of the people sent to Everglades detention centers have no criminal record, making clear that federal state officials lied about who would be detained here. Of those who do have charges, many have low-level traffic offenses. So it sounds like of 750 people, a very small portion actually have serious criminal convictions, murder, and the overwhelming majority either don't have criminal convictions, have pending charges, for which some of them are nonviolent, and others have traffic violations. All this for the medieval times political theater that Trump and his deranged cult embraced, for the imagery and the sociopathic nature of, hey, the alligators will serve as the prison guards. I also want to show you they are apparently grouping the prisoners, over half of which are not violent and have no criminal charges or have pending charges for which we don't know. They are color coding them. Color coding them. Let me play this.
Can I make really quick? I just want to debunk one thing. My colleagues, and I think for our federal partners, but this idea that the worst of the worst is inside the facility is not true. Yep. They are separating them based off of wristbands, based off of orange, yellow, and red. And individuals with small infractions are inside this facility. Civil traffic infractions, suspended license are in there. So the idea that the worst of the worst is in there is not true.
So adding to that point, I'll just add, the only people we saw there were Hispanic-looking males. That's all we saw there. All Hispanic-looking adult males, including those with no criminal infractions at the lowest level. There was one person who was on medical isolation. We couldn't get details about that. I was trying to figure out if it's a public health emergency or a public health concern that puts them in isolation, and we don't know how many people have been put in medical isolation to this point.
We also don't know what is the medical situation there. Do they have nurses? Do they have doctors, being that it's 85 degrees inside? The swarming mosquitoes, people not getting enough water, people drinking water that is connected to a toilet bowl. There have been reports that at least one prisoner was rushed to the hospital and brought back quickly. They better have a pretty good medical staff, considering this is in the bullseye of the hurricane zone, and hurricane season is going to be at its worst in about a month from now. They better have an evacuation plan, or this is going to make what the tragedy in Texas look like nothing in terms of the death count. You know, politics has become so tribal, and throughout history, not just American history, world history, strong men, autocrats, dictators have really done, a hoodwinking of their societies to blame an other. But if you're watching and you're a MAGA, or you think there's a big border crisis or whatever, I ask you, how is this helping your life? How is this making the country better to just round up majority of people who have no criminal convictions? Their only crime is a misdemeanor of coming here illegally, and you want to have them bitten to death by mosquitoes, faint, die of extreme heat and humidity or dehydration, get disease, drink contaminated water, which is likely if the water is connected to toilet bowls. Does this make America great again? Does this lower your rent? make a home easier to buy, lower prices at the grocery store, make cheaper health care, better education for your kids? You want to talk about crimes? How about we group it? How about we round up and put around alligators the bankers who tanked our economy over a decade ago? Millions still haven't recovered from that. How about the Sackler family and Big Pharma, who poisoned hundreds of thousands of people, killed them through OxyContin? Big oil executives who poisoned the water. Those crimes don't matter? I also want to show you, this is a clip from an interview we're going to release soon. This is one of the interviews Ashley did on the ground, where a protester brought up the medieval times as well as Japanese internment camps as a comparison to this facility. This reporting is made possible by you. So again, we want to go back there. Please support us. StatusCoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. Let me play this clip for you again from Ashley's reporting right there outside this facility.
So whenever I hear people about, talking about Alligator Alcatraz, they illustrate how, like you said, the president said it's like undesirable conditions, and, they've had illustrations, of how Alligator Alcatraz is going to be surrounded by, water, which essentially has pythons and alligators. Pretty much is just, there's a lot of predators out here in the environment, and, it kind of reminds me of like medieval times, how like in medieval times, like when they had castles, they would have protective barriers like moats. So, medieval times, that was in the past, but this is eerily similar to that. So it's almost like we're going back in time. But if you want to relate to something more closer in time in our modern history, we can almost relate this to like the internment camps that the Japanese, people like were, subject to in the 1940s, because pretty much when we were in World War II, we, as a country, unfortunately, we just demoralized and dehumanized Japanese people, even if they were born here. George Takei is a great example. He was born in 1937. He's 88 years old. He's still alive. So he's living proof that, internment camps, they will, subjugate people.
History is sadly repeating itself. And unfortunately, I think this is not the worst of it. It's going to get a lot worse there. And I fear people are going to lose their lives. So, hey, MAGA, If you're so worried about the Epstein list, which everyone should be worried about, they're clearly covering it up and hiding it. Why are they hiding what's really going on in there? Why will they only allow politicians in to certain areas where you can't actually see the prisoners in cages? You can't see the prisoners packed up like sardines. You can't see the prisoners having to drink water out of their toilet bowl. What are they hiding and why?